Star Trek just made a classic episode way more disturbing with an unexpected reveal. The city on the edge of forever has long been hailed as one of Star Trek's finest hours. The 1967 episode from the original series TOS, penned by legendary writer Harlan Ellison, though heavily rewritten, stands out for its heartbreaking romance, time travel paradoxes, and an unflinching moral dilemma. Captain Kirk must allow Edith Keeler, a woman he loves, to die in order to preserve the timeline. But now, Star Trek has done something unexpected. In a recent Strange New Worlds Season 3 episode titled Echoes of Forever, the franchise has re-examined the events of that iconic episode and added a twist that reframes the entire story and makes it far more disturbing than anyone realized. Through a combination of speculative science fiction and emotional introspection, Strange New Worlds has peeled back the layers of the city on the edge of forever, revealing that Edith Keeler's death might not have been as inevitable or as righteous as Kirk and Spock believed. And worse, the supposed correction to the timeline may have led to a far greater, unseen tragedy. Revisiting a Star Trek masterpiece. In the original episode, the Enterprise crew travels back in time via the Guardian of Forever, a sentient time portal. Dr. McCoy, under the influence of an accidental overdose of cordrazine, jumps through the portal and alters history. To correct this, Kirk and Spock follow him into 1930s New York City, where Kirk falls in love with Edith Keeler, a kind, visionary social worker. Eventually, Spock discovers that Keeler was supposed to die in a traffic accident. If she lives, she will lead a pacifist movement that delays America's entry into World War II, allowing Nazi Germany to win the war. Kirk must let her die to save the future. The episode ends with Edith dying and Kirk heartbroken, but history restored. This was always one of Trek's boldest moral statements: personal sacrifice for the greater good. But Strange New Worlds has now added a new wrinkle that makes it clear history didn't snap back so neatly, and the cost of Edith Keeler's death might have been incalculably worse. The Return of the Guardian. In Echoes of Forever, number 1 Una Chin Riley, Spock, and Lon Noonien Singh are drawn to an ancient, dying world where a fragment of the Guardian of Forever has been discovered, broken, and seemingly malfunctioning. It's not a portal anymore, it's a psychic artifact broadcasting remnants of past timelines into the minds of anyone nearby. As the away team explores, they begin experiencing overlapping realities, visions of alternate timelines bleeding into the present. Most hauntingly, Spock begins having vivid dreams of Edith Keeler. Not just memories, but scenes that never happened in the original timeline, conversations, visions of her future, and a world where she survived and peace still triumphed. Keeler, in these dreams, is not merely a pacifist, but a leader of a global humanitarian movement that ends up preventing World War II entirely, not by letting fascism win, but by promoting a new wave of international cooperation and disarmament. In this vision, there is no Holocaust, no atomic bomb, no Cold War. The alternative timeline that was better, as Spock later theorizes, the Guardian has been projecting quantum echoes, fragments of potential timelines that could have existed had the past gone differently. And one of those is a universe where Edith Keeler lived and humanity advanced decades ahead of schedule in peace and unity. In this timeline, space exploration begins in the 1970s. A united Earth forms by 1999. Warp travel arrives a century early. Spock is shaken. His mind is deeply logical, yet he cannot deny what he sees. Could it be that the death of Edith Keeler was not the only path to survival, but merely one possible outcome the Guardian had offered in a moment of extreme timeline stress? Lon, ever the pragmatist, reminds him that time travel is full of variables, and that they cannot be sure this alternate vision was sustainable. But Spock pushes back, invoking a haunting question. What if we didn't fix history? We merely chose the easier version? Kirk's choice under new light. The episode's most unsettling moment comes when the Guardian, through a final surge of power, shows them the original moment from the city on the edge of forever. Kirk holding McCoy back as Edith walks into traffic, her death quick and brutal. But this time, the Guardian overlays a new audio cue. Edith sees Kirk before she dies. And she smiles, not in affection, but in recognition. Her final words, whispered as the truck barrels toward her, are heard clearly for the first time. Greater than, you chose fear. It reframes Kirk's decision in a way that's emotionally devastating. Was Kirk driven by logic and duty, or by fear that trusting a different path might lead to failure? Spock had calculated that Edith's pacifism would delay U.S. entry into the war, but what if those calculations were incomplete? What if they were based on assumptions that ignored less obvious global variables? In essence, Strange New Worlds suggests that the Federation might have been born out of a timeline based on the wrong call. Moral consequences in the present. The episode ends not with a neat resolution, but with uncertainty. Spock meditates silently, haunted by the idea that he may have once encouraged Kirk to destroy a better world. Lon writes a personal log questioning whether the mission of Starfleet is to protect the timeline or a timeline. Number 1 argues that the past is done, and what matters now is what they do going forward. But the audience is left to dwell on the deeper implication. The Federation we know may have been built on the death of a woman who could have saved more lives than any war ever cost. The past wasn't corrected. It was selected. A darker Star Trek than we thought. This new twist is both brilliant and chilling. It doesn't retcon the city on the edge of forever, it deepens it. It reminds us that time travel stories in Star Trek have always carried implicit moral authority, fix the past to protect the future. But now, Strange New Worlds dares to question who gets to decide what fixing actually means. The idea that Spock and Kirk, despite their intelligence and compassion, may have chosen the timeline not of optimal good, but of acceptable loss, is a deeply human and tragically familiar theme. Much like Deep Space Nine's more morally complex episodes, this twist adds depth to Trek's utopia. It reminds us that idealism is often forged in fire and sometimes in guilt. Why this reveal matters now? Why do this now? Why tarnish, or at least complicate, one of the most beloved episodes in the franchise? Because Strange New Worlds is embracing the modern Trek ethos, not just to inspire, but to interrogate. In an era where history is constantly re-examined, where we question the narratives we once believed were heroic, this new look at Edith Keeler feels timely. It mirrors how societies must revisit past decisions and ask, did we do the right thing? Or just the convenient one? Star Trek has always held a mirror up to humanity. Now it's holding one up to itself. The future of the Guardian of Forever. This episode also reintroduces the Guardian of Forever not as a deus ex machina, but as a tragic figure in its own right. It's broken, fragmented, echoing with countless timelines it once protected or witnessed fade into nothing. Its final line in the episode, spoken in a fading voice, is perhaps the most heartbreaking. Greater than time is not healed. It only remembers. By suggesting that all possible timelines leave a scar somewhere in the fabric of the universe, Star Trek has taken a huge step forward in how it approaches time travel, not as a reset button, but as a moral minefield. A disturbing new legacy. Edith Keeler's death was always a tragedy. But now it's something worse, a missed opportunity. What Strange New Worlds has done with